Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bingle,
Here.
Commissioner Blackman,
Here.
Commissioner Copeland,
Here.
Commissioner Outlaw.
Here.
He's
on
on
Zoom.
Got it. Okay. Commissioner Powell, Commissioner Reddick,
Here.
Commissioner Scott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Mr. Bonner, is there more public comments today?
We had invited the NAACP. They had written and had some concerns or questions related to trying to make sure nobody's here. They were gonna be in person.
Is that her on the, no,
No, that's that.
oh, Daphne, okay.
Yeah.
Or,
But we had invited the members of the NAACP Education Committee to come because they had submitted some concerns or questions related to the Housing Authority's interest in F.R. Dennis. And so opposed to people making assumptions of what we are or not intending to do. There was concerns that we had not, the Housing Authority or the city had not provided them with you all's as board members information or background on what we were planning to do. I shared with them in an email letter that nobody from the NAACP had contacted me directly, or nobody had requested any information from us on board members' information. So I invited them to come to the meeting today. I indicated to them a month ago, as well as Friday, that they were on the agenda and that they could give me the names of who was planning to attend. They gave me a person's name, but nobody's here. So I just wanted to make you all aware of why they were listed under public.
Okay. I mean, but all information is public knowledge already, right? It is posted, right?
Yeah, so I indicated to them that, one, I had not been contacted for that information. Two, y'all information is on the website. So in no way, shape, form, or fashion do we do anything to try to prevent anybody from the public of speaking with a commissioner or bringing a concern to us. But nobody's brought any of that to me before.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any staff comments at this time?
I wish they could have come.
Me too. Yeah, you know, because we want to be transparent with these things. I'm quite sure they'd be concerned, but that's how rumors get out.
Sure.
You know, that's how rumors get out. So it was the opportunity for them to come in and give some understanding that we can share with them. But appreciate your due diligence with all of that. Reviewing the minutes.
I just had one question on the minutes. Under the New Bern Towers report, where we have Trent Court and the Ross program, it says no oral report was given, and we had no oral report at that time, correct? So that's not included in that. If we wanted to add that, it just says it was included in the board packet. And that I asked Ms. Simmons, but I didn't ask Ms. Simmons because she wasn't here. So I just want to make it clear that she didn't give an oral report. I asked for the question to be asked of her. So that's the only correction I have. That being said, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with the requested changes.
Second.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes with the correction that was noted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chair, we are presenting the audit report for fiscal year ending 2023. Alan Kitchen, who's one of the principal partners with Rubino, was going to present. He's under the weather. Ben Carlin is on. Ben is one of the principals with the firm that works within and oversees their audit division. And Ben led the team with his staff that did the audit for the agency. And that I'll turn it over to Ben to present the audit to the board.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you, Reggie. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to present the audit today. My name is Ben Carlin. I'm a senior audit manager here at Rubino. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. All right, I do have a copy of the audit report here on my screen with me. Could it be possible? Could I share my screen? It looked like it was host disabled, but if someone could give me access, that'd be easiest, just so I can, as I flip through, you can see what I'm looking at. Okay.
Have those people just now.
Yep, I'm the host now. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so everybody should be able to see the table of contents on the screen. Can everybody see the table of contents?
A little small,
Okay.
but we
No
have it.
problem.
in front of us, so.
Oh, you have it in front of you. Okay, great. Okay, so before we get started on the results of the audit, I would just like to start out by thanking the finance and compliance departments at the Housing Authority for providing us with the information that we need in order to get the audit submitted on time. We know it can be a challenging endeavor to both do your day-to-day job and also respond to all of our requests. So very much appreciated. And I think that speaks to the personnel that work there and their involvement in making sure that the work gets done. So thank you for that. So I'm going to start out with the table of contents and go over some of the different reports and then talk through some of the more prominent information that is relevant to those charged with governance, which in this case is the Board of Commissioners. First thing is to go over the different reports that exist within the package. So the first report is what's called the Independent Auditors Report. That's the report in which we document our opinion on the financial statements and whether we have reasonable assurance that the financials are not materially misstated. So fortunately, we can say that we did issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. We have reasonable assurance that the financial statements were materially stated, so not materially misstated, as of and for the year ended December 31st, 2023. In that report, we also include an opinion in relation to the financial statements related to the supplementary information. So that would be the financial data schedule, which is a HUD templated, essentially balance sheet and income statement, breaking out the different programs from HUD, as well as the schedule of revenue and expenditures, budget to actual. Both of those pieces of supplementary information, we provided an unmodified opinion in relation to the financial statements as a whole. So that's the first report. The other two reports that you'll see, and if you look down here in the single audit section, is you'll see an independent auditor's report from Government Auditing Standards, what we call the Yellow Book report. This report has the requirement to disclose internal significant deficiencies and material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting and any material noncompliance. We'll get into, there are some findings this year, and we'll get into them in a little bit. There is no opinion for the Government Auditing Standards report. It's simply the requirement to document those things I mentioned earlier. The third report is the Uniform Guidance Single Audit Report, which is required due to the fact that the Housing Authority receives federal funding in excess of $750,000 for the year. This is a standard requirement for the Housing Authority for years now, as they receive all significant HUD funding. In that report, we do opine, we do provide an opinion. We did provide an unmodified opinion for the major programs. You'll see a little bit later, but this year the major program was the Capital Fund program. There were findings, and we'll go over them in a few minutes, as it related to internal controls over compliance and immaterial non-compliance. And then, as you can see in the single audit section, we continue with the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, which is a schedule essentially of the federal funding you receive from HUD, and then the corrective action plan, which the Housing Authority provided as a basis for how they're going to look to improve from the issues that we presented in the findings section. In terms of the standard financial statements, there has not been any changes from prior years. The financials remain relatively similar to prior years. There was one new accounting pronouncement that came out during the year for Governmental Accounting Standards Board for GASB. However, that was related to the capitalization of subscription-based IT arrangements. However, we determined that the IT subscriptions that the Housing Authority has were considered immaterial, and therefore we did not disclose that new accounting pronouncement. So, and just to mention the disclosures, the standard disclosures after the set of financial statements, the basic financial statements, they were considered neutral, consistent, and clear, really no difference from what you've seen in the past, maybe some minor tweaking of some disclosures to improve its language, but nothing worth mentioning that was materially different from prior years. Any questions so far before we delve into some of the findings and question costs?
No, you have questions.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the schedule findings and question costs. So as I mentioned, there are two reports. You have the financial statement government auditing standards report, and then you have the single audit federal awards report. So this page of the overall audit package is the most clear and summarized part of the document that just goes through the different findings, and we'll talk about each one individually as we go along. So we did identify a material weakness in internal control over financial reporting, which was also, so not a separate finding, but really just recorded twice here as internal control over, as a material weakness in internal control over compliance. And then we had two other findings related to the capital fund program that were significant deficiencies in internal control over compliance. I know a lot of wording there.
We
What
don't
do you
have those
mean?
pages. Okay, we don't have those pages.
This one?
Yeah.
We
You
got
don't have page, PDF page 30.
35.
What
35.
page is it, Dan?
It's 35.
So this
right?
would be, this is
Alright.
page 35 of the report. I happen to have it in PDF, so PDF page 37, but it's page 35, 36, 37, 38.
Okay. We're looking in the beginning.
Is everybody good? We have what we need?
Yes,
or
we're
any-
good now. We're good now.
Okay. All right. So go through the findings one at a time. Like I said, there are three, one of which is documented twice. So it looks like there may be four, but there are really three here. The first one is related to the fraudulent payroll activity resulting in theft. I'm going to go into the assumption that you're already aware of this situation. And given the employee authorizing excess salary disbursements in an act of fraudulent theft, as you can see documented here, we consider that to be material weakness in internal control over financial reporting, as well as a material weakness in internal control over compliance. And that relates to the compliance requirement of allowable costs that HUD and really any federal government program requires, that all costs be allowable. So one way to look at allowable costs is the activity itself allowable, as in this, let's say, rehabilitating a property, or is that act allowable? And then within that act, are the costs allowable? Are they considered reasonable? Were they in excess? Were they in deficiency, right? Those kind of things. And that's why you see compliance finding related to the fraudulent payroll activities. Just to be, so you're aware, when it comes to compliance findings, we also look at what's called question costs, which is what was the aggregate amount of the issue here. And so you see on the next page, the question cost was about $18,931. So that's the total amount of excess payroll disbursements that we found during our audit this year. I would like to point out that we were provided with additional information showing that this fraudulent payroll activity occurred in 2024 as well. And one of the obligations that we have as auditors into the next year is to assess each finding from the previous year and make sure there was corrective action plans done. So one question always seems to come up is, okay, well, what's the status of it now, or what are we going to do going forward? And so I did want to point that out. I can't say definitively till we get the audit started and have conversations and see where things are at when the audit is in progress next year, but it's definitely something that we expect to bring up and assess in the subsequent year as well. The other two findings, so that's one finding, and that's related to the fraudulent payroll activity. The other two findings were related to capital fund draws. So one of which was related to obligation. So under the capital fund program, housing authority, really anyone who receives federal funding is federal funding from HUD is required to obligate 90% of the grant amount within 24 months. So although in the system, in LOCKS, which is the system in which the housing authority draws down capital funds, although it was obligated in the system, we requested additional documentation to show that there was something done in order to obligate those funds, not enough to just put it in the system, but setting up a purchase order, setting up a contract, those kind of things. And we were unable to receive any information indicating that those funds were obligated by the deadline. And that's the second finding. And then the third finding is related to procurement. So we were unable to receive adequate procurement documentation showing that the goods and or services that we looked at were procured up to HUD standards. And so that as well was the third finding in the audit report. The first one being material weakness, which is a higher level of severity of a finding. The lower two being significant deficiencies, which is a lower level, still required to be reported, but a lower level finding. And those are the findings that we identified during the audit. Any questions, any comments? More than happy to explain anything if needed.
Just to share with the board as it relates to the last meeting, we're going to be presenting to you all next month a updated procurement policy change. As we went back through and looked, the procurement policy had not been updated since 2014. So naturally, there's a lot of changes that need to be made and updated. So again, just like in anything else that we've been doing last year, it's just going through and making changes and adjustments to reconcile and rectify where those deficiencies exist. There's nothing that's been presented that I'm concerned about that we've not been able to address and move to correct and make you all aware.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Ben.
No problem. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. You were saying, Mr. Bonner?
Oh, I was just asking if you would get a motion to accept the audit as presented, and then that gives us the ability with the board to accept, and we'll have a resolution at some point, or we can do it now, but we just need a resolution to accept and pass the audit where I can then send it to her.
I entertain the motion to accept.
I have a resolution that, if everybody would like to read it, is very generic. It's not a, let me read it out.
So all motions have to be resolutions to go to HUD.
Yeah,
I
the
don't-
resolution to HUD, yeah. Whereas the Housing Authority of the City of New Bern is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. And whereas pursuant to the Code of Federal Regulations, Title II, Subtitle A, Chapter 2, Part 200, Subpart F, audit requirements, non-federal entities that expend $750,000 or more during the non-federal entity's fiscal year in federal awards must have a single or program-specific audit conducted for that year. And whereas reporting is done in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles as promulgated by the Government Accounting Standards Board. And whereas all public housing authorities report the results of their audits electronically through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Financial Assessment of Public Housing System. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of the City of New Bern approves the fiscal year 2023 financial audit.
Question. Can you read out the resolution number again, please?
You want the code?
Yeah, the resolution number.
The
The number.
resolution number is 10.24.01.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept resolution number 10.24.01. And do I have to say that long? Say, okay.
I'll second. Good second. All in favor of, approving the, resolution 10.24.01, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Thank you, sir.
Okay, Shay, you're back on again. We'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. I have done the finance packets for August and September. Would you like to go through both of them, or should we just jump to September?
Let's jump to September.
Okay. So the reports look a little different, and we are working on just making sure we have some quality reports for you all. So they may change in the future, but for now, this is what I have, starting with the balance sheet. And so this is the balance sheet, and it's separated for the 3 different programs, for Ross, for Trent Court, and for New Bern Towers. And then these are the budget comparison reports. This is this going automatically, or is someone changing this?
You can tell me how to navigate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you go back up to page 1 for the balance sheet? So yes, this is the balance sheet, and it's separated for Ross, Trent Court, and New Bern Towers. Does anybody have any questions on this sheet?
Mr. Varner, let me just ask you this question on the accounts receivable for the tenants. You know, we worked to change the process and you put some plans in place. I remember March was, as of March, people had paid, but we're still at 71,518. We're looking at 100,000 in lost rents. So have we not made much of an impact? Or is that a good number?
Well,
I know we're still struggling with the
So-
numbers.
so Shay, from your perspective, from your standpoint, those tenant accounts receivables, what she's talking about is showing 71,000. Is that those that have not been written off? Because the majority of those tenants that are in place that the board has requested that we proceed with, we've collected. So, trying to make sure from the balance sheet standpoint, what does that represent?
So I would have to go into the details and also pull some extra reports to see what and who owes, but that section is basically for tenants that have not paid rent. And this also does not include any additional write-offs, because I believe the last write-off that I know of was done for the prior fiscal year.
Yeah, to Commissioner Bingo's, Shay, if you could work with Daphne and staff where we can come back next month and give an update. No, that's a good point, Sabrina. Thank you for bringing it up. So we can, as you say, dig a little deeper in that particular category. Because generally what I find in that case is when we have years of not written off, that number is still there and high. And so to Shay's point, it could be where from our own internal accounting, we didn't make those adjustments within the balance sheet.
That's why it jumped out at me, because I
Yeah.
knew we had talked about this back
Yeah.
in March about.
As it relates to what we put in place, as it relates to the new year of starting with those that are $1,000 or more, and then 500, et cetera, et cetera. The ladies have done a great job of.
I know they have, because I could see that in the monthly reports, but that's why that number hit me.
Yeah. So we'll go back and review that to make sure that number is accurate. But as it relates to what you all approved that we focus on, they've done a yeoman's job of making sure that either they stay or they go. But and the tenants have been. Let me say this, since you brought that up. I want to give the tenants credit as well, that for those that have been brought when it's been brought to bear and we've had to process them to go to court. Pam and Tosh have said, these are my instructions and I can approve you. Once we go to court, you have to set up a time to come see Mr. Barnum. And we've had come to Jesus meetings with a lot of tenants. And they understand that no means no, yes means yes. And as I tell them, God gives grace. And so I'll give y'all grace because he gives me grace, but you got to pay your rent.
This
And
makes it easier on the ladies.
and it does, but they have been clear. And so as I said, not only have they done a great job, but let me also say the tenants have done what we've asked with sympathy and others to go out in the community and try to find the resources that they need to stay in their units. And even when they are behind and they go to court, you know, Tasha had one the other day, said, no, you got to talk to him. And Pam encourages them because again, having that conversation with them, as Pam says, sometimes hearing it from somebody else sometimes makes them see things in a different light. And we've had those discussions and they've gone well collectively. So they've done a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Shay.
You're welcome. And if you go to the next page, I have the budget comparison reports, and I have these reports for each of the programs separately. So this one right here is the Ross grant. It's going to be no income for that since the expenses is going to equal the revenue for that one. And if you go to the next one is the public housing for Trent Court. Does anybody have any questions so far on the reports? Okay, and then you can go to the next page after this, and that's the New Bern Towers report. I'm sorry, so page 6. Oh, no, page 5, I'm sorry. So yeah, page 5. So yeah, this is for New Bern Towers, the same report as the other two, just broken out, giving you the first column annual budget, the month-to-date comparison, and then a year-to-date comparison. And if you go to page 7, we have the cash lead, just giving the ins and outs of the cash going for the main cash accounts. And then page 8 is the grant summary for the grants available currently.
Just to add on the grants, we are in the process of updating the 5-year plan and the annual plan for 2024 funds on the capital fund program, and then preparing for the 2025 funding. Hopefully, the government at some point, well, still under continuing resolution, and we're actually in a new fiscal year. So we operated all of last year in a continuing resolution, and we're still operating under one right now. So hopefully at some point, government will pass some form of a budget. Just what you all know, just again, not to belabor the point, but when we're operating in a continuing resolution, what HUD basically does is go to the previous year that a federal budget was approved, and then they allocate us on a quarterly basis of that funding. So where we would generally get a commitment of those funds on an annual basis, based on the continuing resolution, they allocate those funds on a quarterly basis until such time as a budget is approved. If they identify that if they approve a budget that was under proposed and they go back and make it retroactively, and there was an increase in funding, then they make that adjustment. However,
Decrease, you know them.
decrease, then what they'll do is they'll take it out of the next year's funding to reconcile.
Wow.
So if our operating percentage was lower for the approved budget, then the next year, out of our control, we could do everything right, but you will see we should have got 900,000, but they may give us 800,000 because they gave us 900,000. They're going to get their $100,000 back. So just making, but again,
Interest.
it's a windfall one way. We're not going to get the interest. We just get what's owed. They keep the interest.
Wow.
Anything else, Shay, Daphne, y'all wanna bring up?
That was all for me.
Daphne, anything on your end? Yes, ma'am. Okay. That's just as information, we don't. Okay.
Yeah, we don't need
to
vote.
No, we don't have to vote on it.
Is he ordering things at the drive?
Ain't nothing like it. Ain't nothing like it.
Ladies, thank you all for joining us, and if you want, you all can drop off. Except Commissioner Outlaw.
He didn't think about me.
Okay,
Raleigh.
All right, Mr. Barnum, Executive Director's report.
okay, so please put on your calendars at November 19th. I will be sending out a email to you all, CVR as well as UDA, Urban Design Associates, which is the architectural firm that's working with CVR. CVR will be in town that day. We will begin to have listening sessions. We will also continue to listen sessions, but also planning meetings. We're going back through, and so I'll send you all, because y'all know the players before. But we are going through the list of committees that existed before. We also are going through the people that served on those committees before. I will be sending that information to you all if you all can help me identify who those people are that we can solicit or elicit their involvement this next time. Or somebody that may be at that agency that's in the place of the person that was there before. But I'll be sending it out to you, or Agape and I'll be sending it out to you this week, where we can go ahead and get names of people that we can invite to attend. But that is going to be November 19th. We will let you all know the location of those meetings, but
What, do we know at times?
Yeah.
we don't have the specific times yet. We got some tentative times, and you'll get those emails tomorrow of the different committees, and we'll get that out to
Do
you
you know if it's gonna be like evening or at least or during the day?
during the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so for the most part, they're during the day. But I'll get that. We'll get that information, but I
Okay.
want to kind of get y'all to go ahead and plug and get that on your calendars.
That's my mommy's birthday.
Travel, but I'll prefer.
That's really the biggest thing that I have coming up that I want to just kind of, because that's the big next thing. Sabrina and I were on the conference call with FEMA last Thursday. Just to share with you all, as much as we've talked about SHPO, we got a new glitch. So from the time that Hurricane Florence happened to now, the process for FEMA to allow us to segregate out portions of the Trent Court redevelopment, where they could have done that before, policy has changed. So similar to the SHPO aspect, we would have to go through a bunch of hoops with them to get the approval to, we shared with them, we wanted to focus on from Lawson's Creek up to Walt Bellamy to go ahead and get that demolished. And what they basically said is they're more than willing to help us move towards that process. But as Commissioner Outlaw so eloquently brought up last month, by the time we probably will get the approval, we will have the master plan done. So, basically, and they indicated because of how the FEMA rules and regulations have changed, the time element that it would take, we'll probably have a master plan done. So while we're still going to ask, but we're just staying focused right now on getting the master plan done. But I did want to bring that update. Because as Sabrina and I talked, I don't want to expand our political capital by having the mayor and others push on SHPO when FEMA can't make their changes now. So we don't want to use our political capital on SHPO when FEMA may be the issue, and that's a bigger fight. So we're going to put that on hold and just continue down the road of our master plan.
Also too, I do have great concerns after that phone call that they're really tied up with what's happening in the mountains in the west. So that may delay us that much more because they're putting all their resources, and I mean, people resources to the west.
Right.
And we need those people resources to be reviewing our stuff, which is probably going to take a back seat.
Yeah, and they also indicated that one of the head people in North Carolina lives in Asheville.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
And
head
worked
people-
from home basically and was impacted
Well, the head people,
at the North Carolina Preservation.
I thought,
SHPO?
Yeah, at the
SHPO.
North Carolina SHPO office. He actually lives in Asheville.
Well, is it Secretary Wilson? No, I didn't think he was from Nashville, but it might be
No.
the undersecretary.
Yeah, but the guy that's kind of over the preservation area.
To get to the mountains and bring
Yes.
some of your economy to them. I went this
Yes.
past weekend, and Blowing Rock's open and Boone is open, and they surely want our money and our people walking their streets and their sidewalks. But there were some places that didn't look so good, but I think Asheville got the brunt of it. So but there's still places that are open.
That's all I had.
All right, sir,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah. Next is the New Bern Towers report, Ms.
Yes.
Good
Good afternoon.
afternoon.
We have a total of, and here, where y'all. We're, occupancy rate of %. I have 11 vacancies.
Wow.
I have move in, 0 move out. And an approval of, 7 applicants. The charges. You see it's $34,370.16. Receive $33,173.99. The balance for the year is $1,607. And then a total rate of 96%. Had 2 non-payments. Outstanding request is 16. Request received is 75. And completed 59. We have pending pairs of 11 and pending parts of 5.
Tasha, while you're in your report, what primarily caused your 11 vacancies?
Non-payments, deaths. We had some
Wow.
transition to nursing homes. So, and that's
Pretty much.
basically.
What do we do to market those or to let people know? Because all you hear in our community, in our city is there's no affordable housing. There's, especially in the seniors, and I know, is that relegated to seniors and disabled, or is it just disabled?
No, it's both.
Seniors and disabled.
So I'll let Tasha talk about it. One of the things that you all did for me and for us a couple of months ago, if you recall, because I kept hearing the ladies at the front desk saying, we're not taking applications for 1 bedrooms because the waiting list is closed, because in HUD's policy is if you can't house the number of people on your waiting list within 12 months, you can close your waiting list. So I kept hearing that. So something prompted me to say, well, how many people do we really have on our waiting list? And then when we recognized that we didn't have that many people on our waiting list, but it was always closed. And that was the answer we kept giving people. So to your point, Sabrina, it's working with RCS, it's working with other people in the community to get those individuals that meet that criteria to come in and apply. You got 7 approved. So you're working through your files to get those 7 in, at least 7 of those vacancies. But again, as you know, even from security deposits, we try to work with people to, whether you put them on a payment plan, that kind of stuff, because generally when that time comes up, these people on fixed income, then when that time comes up, they don't have the resources to pay the deposit. So we try to work within those processes to kind of put them on a payment plan where we can try to get them in. But that's some of the stuff. Anything else you want to highlight of your efforts to get tenants in those units?
We do pretty good in the man. We really do. It looks like that, but like.
The perfect storm of, like you said, people
It's
moving
because
to.
people, they pass it and it be like, it will ripple effect when they do, and then they're in the nursing home, so.
And that's generally we generally lose people in the tower by death or nursing home. I mean, because they have to live independently. So when they're not able to any longer live independently, then Tasha has to make that determination with the family. And then that's when we have to recommend that they move to a skilled nursing facility because they can't stay there. Like it's requirements to be able to be independent.
Do we have any, I'm sorry, go ahead. You weren't finished.
Yeah, I was just sort of trying to get the clarification here. So the 7 approved will be going in to fill 7 of those 11 vacancies?
If by the time we ready for them to go in the unit and they have everything that they need, like you said.
Right, no, it's not guaranteed. No, I get it. But as of right now, it looks like.
Yes.
And then the move-ins, what does that mean?
When they get leased out. The move.
So those will reduce the 11 as well?
When they receive the unit.
Now, this one, that impacted the 11. So that's included after the move-in, after 3 move-ins and no move-outs.
So the 11
They got-
includes that already.
Yes.
There's 3 new move-ins already, so it would have been 14.
So I think the better way to answer it that will be on next month's report. At the end of September, to Sabrina's point, she had 3 move-ins in September from August's vacancies.
Got it.
At the end of September, she had 11 vacancies. So at the time of those 7, so just in high level, how many people have moved in October?
Right now, we have 9 vacancies. How many people moved in this one? This one, I have 3. And I have a couple of them just waiting now.
So do you think they'll move in before the end of the month?
I'm praying that they do.
And how many? 2, 3?
We have some pending parts, so,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Oh,
Are there any move-outs though
okay, so.
in October?
Go ahead, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. No.
So somebody that's on us not having the apartment ready, you said pending parts or,
Yes.
or
we
did I
have-
misunderstand?
We are waiting for, we have a couple of AC units.
Okay,
And so we trying to wait for those because we cannot move anybody in with that out. But, we have some that's ready, you know.
well, it's good. I mean, good to get that clarity on that, yeah.
Did you have any move-outs this month?
I did.
Okay, so that's gonna impact that number too.
Okay, thank you.
It's gonna work out.
It will.
Always does.
I was gonna ask if there was an opportunity to transfer some elderly that were in Trent Court to the towers. Is that an option or can we make that suggestion? I don't know, since,
So here is the issue.
okay.
So if both were public housing, it would be simple,
Right.
okay? Because you would be moving them from public housing to public housing, and all you would simply have to do is transfer.
Right.
Tasha's funding is project-based section 8, which is multifamily, in Trent Court is public housing. So they actually have to put in an application and be on her waiting list to be selected. Now, I did do an emergency for Mr. Nobles, Cause if y'all remember, he was the gentleman that kept having the flood unit and we kept paying the hotel.
Right.
And so I wrote a executive override to the file that because of an emergency, we moved him from Trent Court to, so in the event that Ben comes and does an audit, they didn't just move him. There's a letter from me that's called an executive director's override that goes in the file. So that way when HUD comes and does an audit, there's an extenuating circumstances of why I overrode the admissions policy to put that person in. And then HUD then waives that because it was an extenuating circumstance, but not just in general.
To Janelle's point, though, couldn't we identify the people in Trent Court who could be potentially go over there and at least get them application?
Absolutely, but let me tell you.
It's not that easy.
And it's not hard on our end, because they would want to do that tomorrow, all day, every day. But just like Mr. Noble, oh, they don't want to go, and no matter how much he complained and went to the mayor and everybody else to put him in somewhere better, he kicked and screamed to the point that literally I had to say, you don't have a choice but to go because your unit is no longer unfit to live in. Your unit is unfit to live in, and I'm shutting it down. So you don't have a choice but to go. But if they can stay, even though it's better, they fight us tooth and nail. Because they've been used to it. So.
Okay.
But
That's our answer.
But here's the thing, kind of go back to the conversation I was having with Ms. Card earlier. When we get the approval for demolition, then they don't have a choice. Once we get those approvals to say this development has been approved for demolition, then we begin to start moving people out. They don't have a choice but to move in, but we can't make somebody move out of that unit, even as long as it's still livable. We can't make them. So we do everything we can to encourage them, but they give us a lot of push.
Understood. Okay.
Tasha, in between, what I did is I put the police report in between you and Pam. So if you highlight in the police report those things related to yours, and then Pam, when you start, you'll highlight those things related to yours and then do your report, and then we'll be done.
With mine is just basic hangups from the elevator. And sometimes. Yeah.
We're doing it at 75.
Yes, they, yeah. Security checks. They are encouraged to call if something don't look right. This should be here. And so I don't have like major stuff, exciting stuff.
That's good.
Ms. Pam?
She said exciting.
We don't want exciting.
Your excitement is the 911 hang
I'm just kind of excited.
in the elevator. That is funny.
Okay, since we on the lease report, I'm gonna start there and then I'll. So as you see, 19 calls. There's 19 calls that y'all can leave.
That's just a question. How do you handle the drug activity if someone has drug, is that a reason for termination?
Well, activity, usually I wait for the police department to make a move. But I will let them know that it has been reported.
Because here's the problem, Sabrina, if she does before that,
Oh, understand.
and then even if there's activity and they get arrested, they may get off. There may be a technicality, they may be.
Can't until they're charged, really do anything.
Generally, what we try to do is when they're charged, we go ahead and provide them a letter of eviction, but it's pending them going to court. Because what happens sometimes is if you evict them before they go to court and then they get off, you got to give them housing back because they were wrongfully terminated. So
I wasn't sure because, we have that pending termination criminal activity, so I don't.
Yeah.
So criminal activity then for that case means they have to have been charged. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So, for my report, I would like to, go back to last month, August report. Total vacant units, it should have been 4. It should have been 4, not 3. And 3 bedrooms should be 2 and not 1.
Total vacant units should have been 4.
3 bedrooms should be 2.
Thanks, Pam.
So you should be able to back into the numbers with this month, okay? All right, so we had 11 vacant units. And we had, with occupancy rate was 90%. We have 11 vacant units. We had, 7 move outs. 7 of the move outs were writs. We have 6 approved and 12 in process. We have a credit of 346.96, a tar rate of 101%. The unpaid balance is $73,020.21. 16 for non-payment.
what, right? The Shay's report was
That's right, the 7.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that much.
for the year.
Understood. Yeah, no, because then she didn't have October in that, so.
And she said, and that was right off last year. So these are non-payments for the whole 12 months.
It's gonna look much better next year.
Yeah. And the reason too, that it's gonna look better is we're being, as much as the 2 of them come kicking and screaming, but as Tasha said last Friday, it's like a parent trying to get a child something right and you don't always like it, but she recognizes it's for a reason. This is an example of this is example of the reason is when we let people stay and they owe us a lot of money, this is what happens. So that is why we're trying to be very proactive in, if they don't pay this month, we file and we get them out in a month, opposed to letting them stay in there for 4 or 5 months and have a bleeding department. And then by the time we get them out there, or $7,000 versus $1,000 if we get them out in that first month. So
Nice to see charged and received. Look, even for a change, you went over it too. That's great.
Work order. I think that's where I stopped. We had 32 outstanding requests that was from the annual reinspection. So we had request received was 124, 92 was completed, and 32 is pending repair. And as I stated with the police report was 19.
With the police report, what is this device that the police department was supposedly putting? Yeah, is it in place? And is it working? Oh, okay,
Yes, they say that,
that's great.
matter of minutes.
Have we seen a movement in these numbers based on that, or at least the ones that would be deterred by that?
Ask that again, sir. Sorry, I got this. Go back to.
Have we seen a shift?
Mhm.
In, some of these activities, the police activity report, and, so, is the device? Yeah, we know it works. Is it actually deterring the crime?
I think so, because as you see, it's no shots fired. Chief, go ahead, Nelson. Go ahead.
I mean. I ain't gonna lie, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm sleepy. I mean, it works. Best answer I can give you. I mean, it's getting better. we're not having much activity. It's more calmer than what it was months ago.
That's the good news.
So the word sort of gotten out, people are behaving,
Yeah.
or at least they're behaving in Trent Court, which is good for everybody else.
There.
And that's a good thing.
Man, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
You can see.
Appreciate y'all.
We understand that, yeah. Why y'all are riding about.
Yeah, no,
Good job, though. Okay.
I told them, don't feel good. But we know it's a rainbow, it's a pot of gold.
We appreciate your perspective. We appreciate your perspective. Yeah, seriously, thank you all both. Y'all there to bring clarity.
Thank you.
The law program is, you got information in here, anything highlighted?
No, we're just gonna be working on some stuff. Like anything else, like eating an elephant, I'm back every time. Well, it's my next,
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Any other resolutions besides the one we
no, sir.
did on the spot?
Nope. Be good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, closed session, 2 items.
Yes, sir. It won't take long and there's not gonna be any action that's gonna be needed coming out of closed session. So after, but there's information that I need to share in closed session.
So I make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to, go ahead, who's got the statute, Cliff?
43.318.11A, 6 is personnel
Yeah.
and 5 is.
Real estate. So that is my motion.
Second. All in favor of going into closed session to discuss those 2 personnel and real estate matters, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Just want to take the opportunity to once again thank Mr. Barnum for all his hard work. I'm telling you, that finance report looks amazing, even though with the little blips, it looks amazing. It's readable, it's understandable. All the things that he's doing with staff, the housing reports, getting the money under control. It's just been amazing. And I just want you to know, Mr. Barnum, how much I appreciate working with you. I cannot believe in the little over a year you've been here, the great strides we have made, and that I see us continuing down that path. And regardless what anybody says about the housing authority or this board, we are doing good work. So just wanted to make that public statement. All right.
We are truly blessed. I mean, I've been on the board the least time, and it's better every month.
And I voted against it.
At least the process is better, then maybe things come up. The process is better every month.
The blessing.
The thing is
Chair, if you just make a statement that no action is taken in session, correct?
No actions were taken in the executive session. No actions were taken.
motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, adjourn, signify by saying aye. All opposed?
No, we're not.
Yeah, but you-